That's good. They are on time, na? Okay. Hello everyone. Good morning. So today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 12th of March 2022. Okay, so we are going to discuss some of the important articles that are there for today. So let us discuss these topics one by one. So the first topic that we are going to discuss today is related to skies wide open. In this article we are going to discuss about the air transport, international air transport. Now after the Russia-Ukraine war and after we have recovered from the COVID-19, okay, so international air transport is going to be opened by different countries. So this article is related to that, air transport sector. Then the next article is related to digitization in banks causing unmatched disruptions. Okay, so recently the chairman of the State Bank of India has noticed about the unmatched disruption that is happening because of the changing digital infrastructure in the banking sector. So we will discuss about like what are the disruptions that is happening because of the digitization of the banking sector, and what were the note of caution or like opportunities that were talked about by the chairman of the State Bank of India. The next article we are going to discuss about startups eyeing IPO may face tighter valuation scrutiny. Okay, so here in this article we will discuss about what is IPO. IPO means initial public offering. So we are going to discuss what is IPO, and we will understand the role of the Securities and Exchange Board of India in regulating the initial public offerings and the companies that are listed in the stock market. So we are going to discuss about two major stock markets in India. One is the Bombay Stock Exchange and second is the National Stock Exchange. Okay, so with this, later on we will discuss about the fourth topic. This is related to industrial production grows 1.3% in January. So this article talks about various sectors of the economy where we have seen growth, and it also talks about those sectors in the economy that has seen certain kind of downfall, okay, where we have seen decreasing trend in overall production, okay, production or its marketing. So this article talks about how different sectors of the economy is performing. With this, we will talk about the next article, which is shut down this misguided energy policy. Okay, this article is a critical evaluation of the nuclear power sector. This article talks about the risks that are associated with the nuclear power. It also discusses about the recent happenings that has happened with reference to the nuclear power sector. It has discussed about the recent things that was those incidents could have led to bigger disaster, but a timely action by different stakeholders have saved a nuclear disaster to be happening. Okay, so these are the topics that we are going to discuss today. So let us start discussing one by one. Okay, so skies wide open. The resumption of regular international flights should help the travel and hospitality sectors. Now we need to understand, when we talk about resumption of the international flights, means like we are opening the international flights. It means like Indian citizens will be able to travel abroad to any other countries. Okay, and at the same time people from outside, people from outside, they may be foreigners, they may be NRIs, so they will be welcomed in India. Means like the air transport sector is getting opened. Okay, so with the resumption of the air transport sector, there are certain associated sectors that are going to get benefited. For example, if we talk about travel and tourism sector, so travel and tourism sector is heavily dependent on different modes of transportation. If we talk about the international tourists, those tourists who visit other countries for travel purposes, so these tourists will be able to resume their tourism tourism activities. So it will lead to growth of the tourism sector. And at the same time, not only the tourism sector, but the hospitality sector. Hospitality means the chain of hotels. So they are going to, perform well now. Because, I mean, like if we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic, during the COVID-19 pandemic, what has happened? Many, like tourist sector, I mean, tourism spots were locked down. I mean, like, tourism spots were locked down. And at the same time, the travel restrictions were there. Domestic travel restriction was there, international travel restriction was there. So that has, disrupted the tourism sector, and it has also hampered the hospitality sector. Hospitality means hotel chains and other associated sectors, okay, like food stalls, etc. So they have, gone through huge disruption, and that sector, I mean, like tourism, travel and hospitality sectors, they have together seen downfall, and they have, incurred huge losses, and millions of people worldwide have been affected. They have been, brought out of the job. But with the resumption of this particular sector, we can see slow and gradual revival of these associated sectors, like on one side tourism sector, hospitality sector, and like, travel related activities, okay. So this is the thing. Now the government has allowed, okay, government has decided to allow scheduled commercial international flights to resume operations. Government means Government of India, okay. So we do have a ministry, which is Ministry of Civil Aviation, okay. So Ministry of Civil Aviation has given go ahead nod, means like it has allowed the travel sector to perform, okay, means like to work. And we do have an association, it is known as the International Air Transport Association. It estimates that, like, this particular industry, this particular industry, it has suffered about $201 billion of losses between 2020 and 22 due to COVID-19 and accompanying curbs on overseas travel, okay. So this sector, I mean, like hospitality sector and the tourism sector, they have witnessed huge losses during the COVID-19 period. So with this, I mean, like with the allowing the international, flights to operate, so it will resume, it will slowly and gradually resume the hospitality sector and tourism sector. And as you know that, like, Russia-Ukraine conflict is still going on. Russia has launched a special military operation on Ukraine. So with this also the international flights have got hampered, okay. But now Government of India has decided that we will open the international flights, and tourists from India will be able to go abroad, and people from outside will be able to come to India to visit certain like certain areas. So the tourism and hospitality industry largely feeds off the aviation sector for its earnings and job growth, okay. So this is the thing, like what has happened, like if we talk about the 9 months time period that has ended, like December 2020, so 21.5 million jobs were lost in the tourism sector. So here, like, this particular article talks about like what can be the impact of opening of the international flights, and it will also help the, those flight operating companies. If we talk about Indigo, Jet Airways, Air India, there are, many, travel and tourism companies, for example, the flight operating companies, okay. So like they will be benefited, okay, means like they will be able to keep a tap on, they will be able to keep a tap on the prices, operating prices, okay. So slowly and gradually they will revive. And if we talk about aviation turbine fuel, okay, there is a fuel, it is known as aviation turbine fuel, okay. So aviation turbine fuel price have also gone up. Why? Because of, conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the global supply chains in oil, okay, it has got disrupted. So that's why it has led to huge jump in the, crude oil, aviation turbine fuel and other associated energy sectors, okay. So this is the thing. With this, now let us talk about another sector. here in this article we are going to discuss about the banking sector, okay, and this article is with reference to the statements made by the chairman of the State Bank of India. So the chairman of the State Bank of India talked about, like, you know, how digitization is playing role in the banking sector, okay. So this article says digitization in banks causing unmatched disruptions, okay. Lenders need to be agile and nimble, says SBI chairman. So in this article, the State Bank of India chairman has talked about the role that is being played by the, you know, digitalization of banking channel, okay. So like, you know, like during the COVID-19, most of the sectors of Indian economy and economy at large globally, they have been affected, okay, they have been affected. But like one sector that was growing was digital sector, the service sector was growing, okay. Banking channels were open, but the thing is, like, you know, banking also got affected because of COVID-19, okay. But digitization has saved the banking sector, IT sector, like, you know, if we talk about information and technology sector, so these sectors have, you know, seen a growth, like, you know, during COVID-19 also. But this digitization has caused huge disruption in the banking sector. Disruption in the sense, disruption means change in the way people do the banking. Earlier people, you know, used to go to different banks, okay, they used to go to different banks to get, I mean, banking services. Now people prefer to use, you know, internet banking or mobile banking. They are using, you know, like app for doing digital transactions, okay. So digital transformation is happening in the banking sector. Although like banking sectors were in already in the digital, you know, arena, but the thing is digital transformation is happening. Recently, Reserve Bank of India has also launched a new payment way. I mean, like, you know, it is a UPI payment thing where no internet is required. There will be, you know, different modes for, you know, doing transaction. So it also showcases a kind of digital transformation in the banking sector. So the State Bank of India said, like, you know, with the digitization, the, I mean, like, you know, the digital arena or digital area is going to be more sophisticated. So the banks have to be agile. Agile means they have to be quick enough to, you know, pace up with the transformation that is happening, okay. They have to keep pace with the digital transformation that is happening, and they have to match up with the, you know, demand of the customers. Means the expectation of the customers are rising day by day with the digitization. So they want, I mean, they expect that like most of the services will be available online. So it is the, you know, owners of the banks to meet those expectations of the customers. So State Bank of India chairman has rightly pointed out that, like, you know, the banking service providers, okay, so the lenders, they have to, I mean, like, match up with the requirement, and they have to think of digitizing. They have to think of, you know, quickly adapting the changing digital revolution, okay. So this is the thing. This was just an opinion that was made by the State Bank of India chairman, okay. So you can go through the article. We will share this particular PPT with you also, okay. So it talks about the changing role of the digital infrastructure in the banking sector, okay. So digital infrastructure is something that has saved the banking sector during the COVID-19. It has saved the IT sector also. But the thing is, like, you know, people will have to match up with the digital expectation of the customers, okay. Nowadays banks have started giving loans of various kinds only through digital means. I mean, like, you know, they do the authentication, they do the KYC process, right. They, I mean, interact with the customer, they check their CIBIL score. So they do all of it online, and then they, I mean, like, you know, lend money. So now digitization has started playing the key role. Earlier people have to visit the banks to get certain kind of loan, but now that scenario is changing slowly and gradually. Now people can apply for loans digitally as well, and it gets sanctioned digitally, okay. So that's the thing. Now let us talk about another article, okay. This article is related to some of the scrutiny norms that are being followed, or that are being told or directed by the Securities and Exchange Board of India. So let us read the headline and then we will discuss the article. It says startups eyeing IPO may face tighter valuation scrutiny. Paytm flop sparks heavy push to audit for non-financial data. Now let us understand like what does this mean. Recently what has happened, the Paytm as a company, okay, they have listed IPO worth $2.5 billion in the stock market in India, okay, but their initial public offering was not subscribed by the investors, okay, so it was not subscribed sufficiently by the investors, so that IPO listing in the stock market got flopped, okay. So now it raises multiple type of question that the companies that are coming up, the tech companies, for example, if we talk about Paytm, it is a app based tech company, okay, app based means mobile app based tech company. So this tech company was initially doing well when demonetization happened. During the time of demonetization, what has happened, like that time people were not doing banking in using multiple channels. That time Paytm has played greater role, and Paytm was able to provide services to many consumers for doing banking transaction that time, because it had digital wallet, etc. Okay, so that time Paytm has grown to certain extent, but now after then all other companies, even the NPCIL, or okay, National Payments Corporation of India Limited, they have also developed technologies. Now they provide BHIM application, Bharat, like Bharat interface for money. So BHIM application is there. Using BHIM you can do the transaction. Then Paytm is there, Bharat Pay is there, Phone Pay is there, Google Pay is there. So we do have multiple channels through which we can do the transaction. These all are app based services, all right. So with this, what has happened, the market standing of Paytm has not grown beyond a level. After then they have started facing the competition from other rival players. Even WhatsApp has started giving the banking services. Like you can transfer money from your WhatsApp to someone else, okay, although like many people may not be using it, but like WhatsApp also gives payment services, all right. So Paytm has been facing problem. So Paytm has listed IPO means initial public offering. When a company decides, okay, let us discuss what is IPO. IPO stands for initial public offering, okay, IPO stands for initial public offering. So what happens, let's consider there is a company Paytm, and Paytm wants to increase its business operations. It wants to start a new project, or it wants to broaden its like user base. For that, like it may be requiring certain kind of assets. They may require buildings, they may have to hire new people. For doing all such activities, it requires huge amount of money, okay, it requires huge amount of money. So how Paytm, like what are the options for Paytm to go for money? How are they going to raise money? One of the option is to go to bank and ask for loan. Second option is go to the public and give shares, okay. So first option, like if they go to the bank to ask money, then bank is going to cross check lot of things of Paytm, like what was your profit margin, like what is your valuation, lot of things they are going to do. And at the same time, banks have a fixed thing, they have a fixed interest rate. For example, like bank may ask Paytm to pay about 18% interest rate, right? So banks are going to charge fixed interest rate from any company like XYZ company. So banks are part of the profit only. So if Paytm purchases some, borrows some amount from banks, so in that case, what Paytm will have to do, Paytm will have to pay back, okay, it will have to pay back the principal amount and also the interest. But other option is like it can go to the public through the IPO route. I mean, like it can list its IPO in the stock market, and the public at large can buy the shares. Okay, they can subscribe to the shares of this company. So public will be investing their money into the shares of Paytm. So Paytm people are going to get the money. Okay, and like public, when they become the shareholders, they are not only the a party to the profit, they are also party to the losses. For example, if Paytm makes losses, the shareholder will also be making losses. If Paytm makes profit, the shareholder will also get the profit. Okay, shareholder means having ownership, some amount of ownership in the company. Okay, so this is the thing. Now Paytm has thought like we will raise the money through the IPO. IPO means initial public offering. When a company like lists its share for the first time into the into the share market. Okay, that is known as IPO. So Paytm has launched IPO worth $2.5 billion, but that was not subscribed sufficiently by the consumers or the investors. So it raises the question of valuation of the company, how the companies are going to be valued. Okay, means like there are goods and mortar company, means like there are companies that have huge like capital goods in them, they have buildings, they have people working in them. So what happens, valuation for those companies becomes easier, because like they will be looking into asset and liability statements, and they will also be looking into the overall standing, overall valuation of market standing of the company. But in case of app based company, the valuation becomes tricky. It becomes difficult to value a company, because like it does not have those kind of capital goods. They do not have big machineries and all. They might be having offices, but most of the time offices are small and people are working definitely, but like still people are less employed. I mean, lesser number of people are working in app based company. If I talk about Uber, if I talk about Ola, so although they provide services all over India in different cities, but if we talk about their offices are small, maybe located in certain places, and they are providing services everywhere. So valuation of tech app based companies becomes difficult. So recently Securities and Exchange Board of India, which regulates the stock market, okay, Securities and Exchange Board of India, it regulates the stock market. So it has come up with new norms, like it has asked these app based company to to go ahead to show those methods that they are using to value themselves. Okay, so it has asked the app based companies, so the Securities and Exchange Board of India has flagged concerns in proposing stricter disclosures, saying more and more new age tech firms which generally remain loss making for long period. Okay, there are many tech firms, app based tech firms, they remain loss making for long period. How they remain loss making? I'll give you two example. Okay, on one example, let's consider we have Zomato, and other we have other app. So can you name any other app? Zomato, food.
Okay, food.
Yes.
Zomato and
Swiggy. Okay, let's consider we have Zomato, we have Swiggy, we have Food Panda, we have other food delivery services. Okay, there may be many such food delivery services, but in the market only two of them are surviving now, Zomato and Swiggy. Okay, and many of these app based services, they may be providing those food services at a very cheaper cost. They may be giving for example something that worth 100 rupees at 90 rupees, like if you book them through the app. So for initial years, for to sustain the competition or to become unicorn in the market, what they do, like they give the things at a lesser cost as compared to the shop itself. Like if you book through this thing, so you may be getting the food at a lesser price as compared to this thing. Why they are doing it? They are doing it so that like people become habitual in ordering food using their app. So other app based companies will not be able to compete, right? So only this company will be there, but like they are loss making. Okay, they are loss making, and investors are also aware like this is also, although being loss making company, on a long term period, after some time they will keep on increasing their price, little bit, and the users will be habituated in this thing, and eventually it will start making profit. So these app based companies initially make losses. What they do, they initially make losses for long years, and after then they start making profit. Okay, so like SEBI has asked that, like, although these app based companies are loss making for a longer period, but how these companies are valuing themselves, means like when we have to evaluate means what is the valuation of a company in terms of like its what we say, in terms of its revenue, in terms of its turnover, right, lot of things. So like it has asked for tighter norms. It has asked to disclose these companies that like you should file these things. I mean, like so you need to file this thing. So SEBI has in recent weeks asked many companies to get their non-financial metrics, okay, they are known as KPIs. KPIs stand for key performance indicators, audited and then explain how they were used to arrive at valuation. Okay, so this is the thing. Now with this, what will happen, I mean, like these app based companies, they will have to disclose like what are the key performance indicators that they use for arriving at valuation of the company. Okay, so with this, like slowly and gradually, I mean, like these companies will have to disclose their thing, and many of these companies says that like our application is being downloaded by so many people, it is being regularly used by these many people. I mean, like for these many hours, our user generally, I mean, like user base generally is online for these many hours. So like they do have certain parameters, but like this at this point of time, now these app based companies, they are saying that SEBI is asking for stricter norms. It creates uncertainty. Okay, it creates uncertainty for themselves, and it increases the cost of compliance for these companies. Okay, it increases the cost of compliance for these companies. Okay, so I hope you understood about that particular article. So with this, now we will move to the next article. Here in this article, they said industrial production grows 1.3% in January. Mining, manufacturing drive output. Okay. So in this article, they have only talked about those sectors of the economy that are performing well, and also those sectors of the economy that that have slowed down. Okay. So here, if we talk about industrial production, so we do have an index which is known as index of industrial production, right? We do have an index which is known as index of industrial production. We have discussed about index of industrial production in detail in our budget lecture. Okay, so we recently had a budget lecture. There we discussed about this particular thing. We have discussed about 8 core industries, right? We have discussed about 8 core industries. So that video is not made public yet, but like we will make it public very soon. But the thing, people who have attended the ED lecture, they have gone through in detail about this particular topic and certain associated topics. We have discussed through infographics also. We have used different kind of data, graphs, etc. to discuss about these things. Okay, and this weekend also we are going to have an ED lecture. There we are going to discuss about new topics. Okay, so let us discuss about this thing. So in this article, what we are going to learn, we are just going to learn about those sectors of the economy that are performing good, that are going down. Okay, nothing in detail. Okay, so India's industrial output grew by 1.3% in January. Means like overall industrial output has grown by 1.3% in the January month. If we talk about the manufacturing sector, okay, so the data, this data came from National Statistical Office. Okay, this particular thing came from National Statistical Office. And if we talk about the manufacturing output, okay, if we talk about the manufacturing sector, we do have service sector, manufacturing sector. The manufacturing sector has grown by 1.1%. The mining production sector has grown by 2.8%. Electricity generation went up by 0.9% year on year. If we talk about production of consumer durables, I mean like those goods that are used for directly consumer purposes, that that have gone down little bit. Okay, so it has gone down, and it has contracted by 3.3% compared with a 0.1% shrinkage a year ago. Okay, if we talk about private consumption, okay, private consumption in India's industrial output grew by 1.3%. Okay, so this is the thing. Now there are certain sectors, if we talk about manufacturing and mining production, so they have grown because of the base effect. Okay, base effect. Okay, base effect means like like their basic data. Okay, so like they have like basic thing, so that are already in place, like previous things were in place, so that's why they were able to grow. If we talk about consumer non-durables, so this has grown by 2.1% year on year in January. Okay, then capital goods production also shrank. Shrank means it has gone down. Okay, it has shrank for the 4th successive months, dipping 1.4% in January. So it will give you a general idea which sectors are growing, which sectors are going down during COVID-19 pandemic, during any kind of international conflict by Russia and Ukraine conflict. So this will give you an idea like which sectors perform well in which scenario. All right, and primary goods output growth slowed. Okay, so primary goods output, like if primary goods means those things that are a part of the primary sector. Okay, primary sector means where the production is happening at the first level itself, right? If you talk about agriculture sector, it is a primary sector. Okay, so although it has been growing, but the growth is slow. Okay, means like it is growing, the growth is slow. Okay, so this is the thing. So they have compared like what is the status of pre-pandemic and post-pandemic level, right? What has happened during pre-pandemic and post-pandemic level. Okay, so this is the thing. I mean, like in this article there is no much thing to discuss about. Now let us discuss about this particular article that talks about shut down this misguided energy policy. Okay, so we need to talk about misguided energy policy with reference to the nuclear sector. So this article critically analyzes the nuclear power sector. Okay, it critically analyzes the nuclear power sector in detail. It talks about what are the cons means negative points of the nuclear power sector. We already know what are the positive points. One of the positive point is like it uses lesser fuel and it produces very huge amount of energy. It is environmentally friendly in the sense that like its waste are not directly disposed of into the environment, and it does not harm. Means like its waste can be stored for long period of time. Okay, but like so we know about its positive thing because like it is the energy of the future. People say like this is the energy of the future because coal based thermal power plants will be making losses in the future to come, because the coal is getting depleted year by year and it causes huge amount of environmental pollution. Okay, it causes air pollution. Apart from this, it releases certain pollutant that harm the environment on the long run. So people have come up with nuclear energy where the fuel used is very less, but it produces more energy. But there are various negative points also. One of the negative point is it is a capital intensive sector. It requires huge amount of capital to set up any nuclear power plant. Okay, huge amount of capital. So capital diversion has to happen in this sector to make it grow or to make it prosper. Apart from this, this article talks about two incidents where like a bigger accident was about to happen, but like we could have the world was able to safeguard from such accidents from happening. Okay, so this article begins by saying that nuclear technology is hazardous. Okay, it is hazardous means it can lead to disaster also. It can lead to nuclear disaster. So they are saying that nuclear technology is hazardous. The world was reminded of this on March 3. Okay, so what has happened on March 3? On March 3, a fire broke up, okay, in one of the nuclear power stations in Ukraine because of onslaught of Russia. Okay, so the nuclear power plant is named as Zaporizhzhia, okay, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine, and this is the Europe's largest nuclear power plant. A fire broke up there, okay, so this is a very good point, that Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is the Europe's largest nuclear power plant, and a fire broke up over there. But the thing is, like, it was a fortune for those people. I mean, like, it was a fortune that, like, this particular fire did not affect, okay, did not affect the cooling system, it did not affect the plant's power supply or its spent fuel pool. So because of this particular thing, a major disaster did not occur, okay. So luckily, like, we were able to safeguard, I mean, that nuclear power plant, all right. So this particular thing has reminded the world that, like, it may have led to a nuclear disaster there in Ukraine or in the European continent itself. Apart from this, the author also suggests about another incident that happened 11 years ago, okay. So 11 years ago, the people of Japan were not as fortunate, okay. So what has happened on March 11, 2011? March 11, 2011. So that also happened in the month of March itself, okay, right. So multiple reactors at Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant suffered severe accidents after an earthquake and a tsunami has hit, okay. So then on 11th March 2021, earthquake has hit and tsunami has hit there. So those reactors were quickly shut down, okay, following the earthquake, okay. So also there were, I mean, like, these things, I mean, that plant was, the reactors were shut down. So that's why, I mean, like, a nuclear disaster did not happen. But the thing is, what happened? The radioactive cores continued producing heat and eventually melted down because tsunami knocked out the cooling system, okay. That time tsunami has knocked out the cooling system. Where? In 2011 in Japan, okay, Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The aftershocks of Fukushima disaster were felt beyond Japan and led to slump in nuclear energy, okay, in most of the world. Means, like, this has given a stern message to the world that nuclear energy is disastrous. Means, like, nuclear energy is hazardous, and if something unforeseen happens, it may lead to huge disaster. After then, like, like, there was a slowdown in the requirement of nuclear energy around the world, okay. On December 15, 2021, Indian government informed Parliament that it plans to build 10 indigenous reactors in fleet mode, okay, and had granted in principle approval for the additional reactors, okay. So now let us discuss about Coulomb nuclear power plant. Yesterday we discussed about an article, Coulomb nuclear power plant. So what has happened in that nuclear power plant is, like, although that is functioning properly, but, like, it's waste material, the byproducts from the spent fuel. So those byproducts are being dumped out far away from reactor, okay. So far away from reactor they are dumping out. But, like, people are protesting because, like, although if you put those things, those waste material underground, if you put that 15 meters below the ground level, but it is going to affect the soil, it is going to affect the groundwater, and ultimately people are going to get affected. So people have raised their voice, all the 15 ward members in that particular panchayat, they have written to the head of the panchayat and they have written to the collector of that particular district, and they are willing to go ahead and discuss with the, I mean, like, project head of the Coulomb nuclear power plant. If the project head is not going to hear the matter, so they are willing to, I mean, like, go on a strike in front of the nuclear power plant itself. So this is one of the key concern that, like, people should be aware of, because, like, nuclear power, okay, nuclear technology is hazardous. It may lead to wide ranging impact. So this article also talks about the negative points of the nuclear power plant, okay. So here they have discussed about, various things like, nuclear power plants are capital intensive, and recent nuclear builds have suffered major cost overruns. Okay, so they are capital intensive. It requires billions of rupee, dollars or rupee to install nuclear power plants, and so like it is cost intensive. And so if we talk about, they have given one example, like VC Summer nuclear project in South California. The cost in that particular project has risen so sharply that the project was abandoned after an expenditure of over $9 billion. Okay, they have done expenditure of $9 billion, and after then they have abandoned. Now they are not, going ahead with that project. So this $9 billion was a loss, because like this project is not getting completed. So if it is not completed, then it will not be used. Okay, so this is the thing. And there are major projects around the world, I mean, like, that start somehow, but after huge expenditure they do not, reach to the, stage of completion. If they are not completed, so they will not be able to, I mean, like, give the desired return or desired output. Now the author has said that in contrast, the renewable energy technology have become cheaper. Okay, the Wall Street company Lazard estimated that the cost of electricity from solar photovoltaics and wind turbines in US declined by 90% and 72% respectively. Okay, so author is comparing the nuclear power and the power generated using renewable energy technologies. Okay, this contrast has stymied plans for expanding nuclear power. Okay, so this is the thing, I mean, like, here the author is talking about that, like, nuclear power is very capital intensive, and at the same time it is hazardous also. It causes huge risk, I mean, like it is risk prone, so one has to be aware of the risk. Okay, yes, now it says unviable imports. Okay, unviable imports. For example, like if you are operating a nuclear power plant, then you will have to import the nuclear fuel. The nuclear fuel is going to be very costly. Sometimes because of unavailability of nuclear fuel in some of the market, you will have to, shut down the nuclear power plant. But once a reactor is started, like, we cannot, I mean, like, think of stopping that reactor. Because like starting and stopping a reactor is a huge problem, because it requires huge time, lot of things are associated. Okay, so if sufficient fuel is not available, so it is going to be problem. And at the same time, the fuel cost is very high. In the international market, the cost of fuel is very high. Okay, so this is the thing. Now in this article, they said, like, of the 24 foreign reactors with in principle approval, 6 are of VVER, water energetic reactor. So here they have, taken the example of Coulomb 1 also. Okay, means like Coulomb nuclear power plant. So here we need to understand that, like, so the imports that we are going to do, imports in terms of fuel, imports in terms of the components for the nuclear power plant. If we have to build a reactor, that reactor will also be very costly. Okay, so like we have to invest huge amount of money to import those things, and it is going to delay that project for a long time period. And during this time, what happens, the government also keeps on changing frequently. Okay, so that's going to be a difficult situation. So it is saying that unviable imports. And now here the author is also talking about understanding risk. What are the risk factors that are associated? One of the risk factor is safety concerns. Okay, safety concerns. So we have seen the Fukushima accident, and after then the world is more concerned about the safety of the people who are situated near the nuclear power plant. So if a particular reactor happens to go through any kind of accident, if any accident happens in a reactor, so what will happen? The people at large, I mean, like, in the nearby area, so they will get affected. Their generations, future generations to come, they may have to, go through some radioactive emissions that are happening because of the, that has happened because of the nuclear accident. Okay. So this is the thing. So the author talks about the Fukushima disaster. Okay. So here again, like what has happened, like in India also, like in whichever state the central government has thought of, you know, implementing the nuclear power plant, the state government has rejected most of the time, because they don't want any nuclear accident to happen in that state. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so the safety concern is always there with the people, and now we have to understand the safety related thing. Okay, then climate related concerns are also there. Okay, nuclear power plant releases radioactive waste. Okay, climate change will increase the risk of nuclear reactors accident. The day after the fire at Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, a wildfire approached the Hanul nuclear power plant in South Korea, and President Moon Jae-in ordered all-out efforts. Okay, so what has happened? Climate is also changing. With climate change, with changing climate, we see frequent incident of forest fires. Forest fires happen frequently. Then other global warming happens, so temperature also is increasing globally. So that may cause, you know, problem for the nuclear power plant, and if an accident happens, so that's going to again cause problem for the humanity at large and the environment. Okay, so this is the thing. So these are the, I mean, like, you know, so the author is suggesting, therefore the nuclear power is not the right choice to adapt to climate change, which requires resilience in power systems. It is also not the appropriate choice for mitigating India's carbon emission, since it cannot be deployed at the necessary scale. The resources spent on nuclear plants will yield quicker results if they are redirected to renewables. Okay, so here the main point of concern of the author is, like, you know, instead of focusing so much on the nuclear power, we should focus more on renewable system form of energy, and in that direction government of India has already taken certain steps. We have initiated the International Solar Alliance. Its headquarters is located in Gurugram in India itself. Then we have started One Sun, One World, One Grid. Okay, so that One Sun, One World, One Grid system is going to be beneficial for harnessing the solar power, right? So these are the things in the right direction for, like, you know, embracing the renewable technology. Okay, so that's all for today. So any questions so far? Any question from people who are attending online and from you? Okay, that's all right. So with this, like, let us wind up today's discussion. Thank you so much everyone for attending the session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you. Okay, thank you.